On this episode, we see how Phoenix, Arizona keeps sidewalks open during construction. Then we talk with the chair of the Scottsdale Planning Commission. In Tucson, an intersection allows a bicycle route through a neighborhood to cross a major street without increasing auto traffic. In Atlanta, Georgia, new advocates learn to speak about pedestrians. Cuts in transit service make a resident of Anchorage, Alaska, walk 6 miles to the bus stop. A coalition is working to improve trails and greenways in Anchorage. And finally, we look at an absurdly wide street in Fairfax County, Virginia. Stay tuned. We're in Phoenix, Arizona, talking with Tony Arviso, who's a supervisor with Construction Traffic Control. What does Construction Traffic Control do?
What Construction Traffic Control does, John, is we set the minimum specification requirements for all barricading and traffic control for street construction projects, such as the one that is behind us here.
Now, what sort of experience has Phoenix had over the years with pedestrians in construction zones?
Well, what we've had over the years is as many as simple things to where we used to just arbitrarily have contractors allow them to close sidewalks down. We now know that that is not feasible in this day and age. So what we've done to help mitigate the problems with pedestrians and sidewalks is we've now created ways where pedestrians now have access through our work zones by either placing them out of harm's way in a closed lane or somewhere behind where the construction activity is occurring.
And this looks like a fairly complex process behind us, the way they've had to shut down the traffic lane. Does it always happen right the first time? I mean, what's your role in making sure it happens right?
Well, what we try to do in making things happen for our citizens here in Phoenix is we try to write responsible traffic control specifications. We include specifications now within our contract documents so that the language itself sets a standard by which all contractors can bid equally against. And in putting that together, what we have is quality control that is being inspected by our inspectors in the field, and we come out as a group and we can come out and add additional requirements or actually have pedestrians or actually make things work better for them, in other words.
So what sort of mistakes do you see that requires a little extra effort to educate a new contractor who might not have done this before?
Some of the mistakes we see that contractors do in Phoenix is that they don't always follow the specification requirements as written in the traffic barricade manual. We do have a traffic barricade manual that specifies as pedestrian accommodation. They may not have the proper signage out. They may not have the proper cross slope ramps that lead from the sidewalk area to the pavement area or vice versa behind the work.
Now, what's the role of the field inspector in seeing that it's all done, and what's the role of the public if the public happens to spot a problem?
Well, the role of the inspector, of course, is to manage the project according to the city's specifications and the contract language that's in for the construction project. They're to see that all those are upheld and ensure that the contractor is following the rules. As far as the public is concerned, we get help from them on time to time where they'll come and they may notice a hole in the sidewalk, say, there's no barricading around it. We've had some really good reaction from the public notifying us of the need that there is a hazard of sorts, and then we can call the proper entity to come out or inspection group to take care of the problem. So the public has had a great role in alerting us to some problems in rare instances when they occur.
We're in Scottsdale, Arizona, talking with Betty Drake, who's chairman of the Scottsdale Planning Commission. What is it that a planning commission does?
Well, the Planning Commission gets the privilege of considering all applications to rezone property. We look at general plan amendments, we look at plats, we make basic land use decisions, zoning ordinance amendments, you name it. So we basically approve all development that changes in the city. And we look at site plans as well as land uses.
Someone comes into you to the commission with the site plan for a shopping mall or an office park, typically, what have they done to provide access for pedestrians?
Well, once you drive in there and you get out of your car and you fight your way through the parking lot and make it onto the sidewalk, you're probably pretty well taken care of, as long as you only want to cross the sidewalk, go into the entrance of the building and buy things. Otherwise, they don't do very much.
What can the planning commission do then? You have a site plan that's done absolutely nothing for pedestrians. What's the next step?
Well, the step is that these fellows usually come in because they want something. They want a change in zoning to be approved. They want a use permits for some use within the center, or they want a general plan amendment. This gives us some leverage, if you will, politically. We can just pose in the public meeting or in meetings with staff before we get into a public hearing the questions such as, like, what if I wanted to walk to your subdivision? Or what if I took the bus and I got off way out here at the corner? What kind of experience would I have attempting to get through the parking lot into the grocery store or the drugstore? We can get them thinking about these things, because 9 times out of 10, they've never stopped and thought about that. Same things goes for bicycles and other modes. We can basically require that they produce a pedestrian circulation master plan, and that it be approved by the city's development review board, which has specific authority to approve architecture, site plan, and landscaping. That's the next step after zoning. We can get that as a requirement of the zoning process, so they really have to start targeting that if they want to get their next level of approval.
How successful has this been? Have you ended up with some places that were a lot better than what you originally saw?
Oh yes. It's a work in progress, but we've been very successful. We've got some shopping centers that have provided good links into some of our off-road trail systems. We've got a number of developers to start rethinking the way they design their parking lots, for example, to make it much safer and more comfortable for people to walk from their car into the store, make it more comfortable for them to come to their center, to park once, and then walk from place to place. It's been working well. It's a start. So we found that basically a developer, once you sort of educate them a little bit about the good it can do to them and the advantage it can give their particular development, that they're pretty receptive.
We're at 3rd Street and Country Club Road in Tucson, Arizona. We're talking with Tom Fisher, who's the pedestrian and bicycle coordinator for the city. What's different about this intersection behind us?
Well, this intersection is specifically designed for bicycle and pedestrian travel. We've done that by limiting vehicle movements at this intersection, so there's not so many conflicts with bikes and peds. And then we've put in some median islands and some striping, as well as a specialized signal that's activated by a camera. So as a cyclist approaches this center protected median island, the camera picks them up, triggers the signal, and then they get through the light.
How's it been working? Do bicyclists like it?
Yeah, bicyclists like it. We've done some survey work out here. There are some glitches in the system, but overall it's been great. Compared to what was here before, there was just a marked crosswalk with some yellow flashers, and there were several accidents here. So it's worked extremely well compared to that situation.
And the video detection of bicycles, how does that work? Is that something that it's relatively new, I would think?
Well, it's relatively new. It's a new technology. Well, it's really not a new technology. They've been using it for vehicle traffic throughout the U.S. and especially in Europe for many years. But in terms of detecting bikes and pedestrians, it's not foolproof. And for us, this is the one and only signal that we have where we use video detection for bikes. And we're not sure that we're going to continue to use it. This is our pilot project here. I would say about 98% of the time it works. I've noticed that during windy days, the mast arm will shake and trigger the camera. I've been out here where motorists have seen me out here doing survey work, and they've said, this seems like an awful waste of money just to get a couple bikes across the road. So it's still in the test phase right now, even though we've had it in for about a year and a half.
What sort of bicycle volumes do you get through here?
Last time I counted, which was about 3 months after we had it installed, there were about 120 cyclists in a 2-hour period. So approximately 1 a minute. And that's pretty good. But as people get used to the signal and they know it's here, the volumes are going to continue to increase. It's mainly a lot of university commuting traffic, and then people going on to the downtown area. You'll see a lot of recreational users, a lot of people walking. The neighborhoods have been very supportive of the signal, just by virtue of connecting the two across a major roadway that separates people. And with a crossing like this, people feel very safe just getting across the street, going to the grocery store a couple blocks away, going to their friend's house. There are now a group of school kids that ride their bikes to school because this crossing is safer. I've talked to the mom, she's very happy about it. So it establishes connections between people in the community.
We're in Atlanta talking with Bill Dunkley, who's vice chair of PEDS. What's PEDS?
John, PEDS is Pedestrians Educating Drivers on Safety. We're a pedestrian advocacy group that's been in Atlanta for the last 4 years.
Pedestrians have been in the news in Atlanta recently. What got people's attention?
Well, we'd like to think that it's our organization that's helping to bring some attention to the pedestrian problems we've got here. There's several reports, several studies that have come out recently also that have helped to focus the media and the public attention on what's going on with pedestrians and the public health issues that we have here. Just recently, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, released statistics showing that in the 4 core metropolitan Atlanta counties, that the pedestrian fatality rate has just shot through the roof. It's almost doubled in 4 years, and that's even more statistically significant when you look at the fact that numbers of trips that pedestrians have been taking over that same period has declined by almost about 50%. So it's really gotten people's attention. We've also, PEDS has been holding demonstrations on various issues, sidewalk closures for construction. We've held other demonstrations on buildings that aren't opening, giving pedestrians entrances onto the sidewalk, so poor urban design. We've been in the news quite a bit. The media have been very supportive on pedestrian issues, and we think that we're finally getting on the roadmap, I guess, in the Atlanta scene.
You had one of your regular meetings last night where you had an unusually large number of speakers. What was going on?
Well, John, what we're doing, one of the goals of PEDS is to help our members become better pedestrian advocates. One of the best ways to do that is to have members, volunteers, to go out to local organizations, to community groups, to business organizations, Lions clubs, Kiwanis clubs, and to actually speak personally about their experiences, the problems that pedestrians face in Atlanta, and what PEDS is doing as an organization to help solve that, and to ask for their support. So what we've done is we've put together a program. We call it Pedestrian Voices. We take a small number of volunteers, members of our organization, and we put them through a 4-week training series of workshops where we teach them not only basic presentation skills, but we also teach them topical issues about the pedestrian situation here in Atlanta and in America at large. What we do following that is we ask them to make a commitment to make at least 4 presentations during the next 12 months. We think that most of them will actually do more than that. We'll help them arrange these presentations. They could also do that on their own. But it's a first step towards actually getting the message out there to the folks who have the opportunity to help us in the future. So this is the first one that we ran. Last night was our capstone, our final presentation, so it finished off our first series of workshops. We'll probably be doing it on a fairly frequent basis, about 2 or 3 times a year. So we're pretty excited about getting this program off the ground. It's something we've been looking forward to for quite a while.
We're in Anchorage, Alaska, talking with Philip Chaplin. You don't drive a car. Why is that?
I have a medical disability which prevents me from driving.
And you have to walk to get around then. How far do you have to go to pick up some groceries or catch a bus?
The nearest bus stop and the nearest grocery store is 6 miles from my house. It's a 2-hour walk under ideal conditions. Sometimes it takes longer than that in the winter.
And you have sidewalks all the way? What's the walk like?
I have sidewalks almost none of the way, and it's a pretty interesting walk, actually. Some of it's through some woods where we deal with wild animals, moose, even sometimes bears here in my immediate neighborhood. Most of it's walking beside the road right next to cars and traffic, though.
2 hours is a pretty long walk to get someplace. What could be done that'd make it a little easier for you to get around?
Well, formerly here on the hillside in Anchorage, in suburban Anchorage, Alaska, there was bus service, and the nearest bus stop was only 3/4 of a mile from my house, which is just over a half an hour walk, which is not very bad. But now, as I said, the nearest bus stop is 6 miles, so if bus service was to be reinstituted here on the hillside, that would be of great help to me and to other pedestrians.
We're in Anchorage, Alaska, talking with Ron Crenshaw, who's founder and president of the Anchorage Trails and Greenways Coalition. What is the coalition?
The coalition is a true coalition of bicycle and pedestrian and horse and snowmobile and dog sled and every mode of trail traveler you can imagine. Their organizations are members of the coalition, as are many businesses in Anchorage who support trails.
How'd the coalition get started?
Anchorage was redoing its area-wide trails plan for the 3rd time, and we had about 60 people at the last meeting, and we were getting ready to go back to our regular lives after we had been meeting together for a year, and everybody said, gee, there's a lot of work to be done, and we'd like to form some kind of an organization. So we got some bylaws together and got some founders and formed a nonprofit organization in 1994.
So what are the major issues that you deal with?
Probably in Anchorage there are 2 major issues. Initially, our roads and highways were being built without accommodations for trail users and pedestrians. Equestrians were being denied access to traditional areas because new roads were going in. School kids were now being bused that used to walk to school. If they lived more than 8 blocks from their school, they had to ride the school bus now because it wasn't safe to walk the streets. And the other issue is snow removal. And the favorite place for snow to be removed from the highway is upon the adjacent sidewalk, and which harms pedestrian travel. Kids can't get to school, even if they live within 8 blocks. People who ride the bus can't get to or from the transit stops while snow's on those sidewalks, so they're walking in the street. There's kind of an ethic that has been, or a custom, I guess, that's been developed in Anchorage, and that's people walking in streets. And I think that's because they get so conditioned during our 6 months of winter walking in the street, because it's the only predictable place to walk, that summer rolls around and people are still walking in the streets. And even if there's a perfectly good sidewalk next to it, it's kind of an unsafe culture that's developing. People are trying to accommodate themselves to the lack of facilities.
Whose responsibility is it to clear sidewalks, or does anyone have that responsibility?
The local Parks and Recreation Department has sort of inherited that. They've become the, by default, I guess, the caretakers of pedestrians, because I think the philosophy is that pedestrians are kind of like parks and other things. They're a frill, and we have more important things to do in our community. So we give those amenities and frills to the Parks and Recreation Department. They plant flowers, and they can build parks, and they can clean sidewalks for pedestrians in case we have any pedestrians left. And occasionally the road crews will come back when they're finished clearing the road at their convenience and lower the blade of the grader on the sidewalk and take the snow back off, and then the snow is trucked away to a snow disposal site. And that's why the Municipal Public Works Department and the state are somewhat advocates of having trails or sidewalks right next to it. So A, it serves as good snow storage for the road, and B, it's easy to come back and scrape it off the sidewalk at their leisure. The problem is, if you and I are a pedestrian, we're trying to go to our jobs, and that's our preferred mode of transportation, or maybe that's our only mode of transportation because we aren't drivers for whatever reason. Now we can't predictably get to work.
Now, the coalition has put together a couple publications. You did a coloring book. What was that all about?
Well, we thought the best way to start, since we weren't having too much luck trying to educate from the top down, we thought the best way to educate would be to try to get in to talk to kids who are already pedestrians and trail dependent upon their feet. They're not drivers yet, so they haven't made that transition. And we thought they would better understand the problem. So we designed a coloring book for 3rd and 4th grade kids. And it's about a 30-page coloring book, and it's been very popular. We've given a copy to every 3rd and 4th grader in the school system in Anchorage. Now, this was about 3 or 4 years ago, so now they're in junior high practicing what they learned from the coloring book.
You have a new publication out, a trail map. Tell us about that. What's in there?
It's a wonderful trail map. I think it may be, not to diss anyone else in other cities and other states, but we collected maps from all over the country, and one of our favorites was one we saw in San Diego and brought that back, and I bicycled a number of the routes on the San Diego map, and it was very usable because the routes were color-coded and they meant different things, and it was very comprehensive and easy to follow. So we brought that idea back and went one better, I think, in designing a map for people to get around Anchorage by foot or bicycle or ski without, let me say, considering the most enjoyable routes. Now, for the first time, a person that lives on one side of town can get to the other side of town by a variety of routes. As we've color-coded on the map, they can take the scenic route through a system of greenways and take a long time, or they can take a more direct route on streets and trails that are color-coded to indicate if this is a high-volume street or if it's a low-volume, quiet street. So you can pick your route depending upon your skill level and your preference for the experience you want to have. So I think that map just hit the local stores within the past 2 weeks. And so we don't have a lot of feedback as to what the users think of it, but it was built by users, and so we think it's going to be a dandy.
What are you looking forward to over the next several years? What are you going to be facing as your challenges?
I think the biggest challenge over the next few years is to try to make headway in teaching the Department of Transportation and the Public Works Department and the engineers who design transportation facilities to take the needs of pedestrians and bikers and other trail users into consideration, because most of us travel within road rights-of-way in one form or another. And those rights-of-way need to be designed and built to accommodate whoever is using them, whether they be elementary school kid walking to school, somebody in a wheelchair, somebody commuting to work high speed on a bicycle, somebody in a car, somebody getting to and from a transit stop. Those transportation corridors need to accommodate all those uses. And the problem, as I see it, most of the designers of transportation facilities are drivers, and that's their mentality. They're not trail-dependent people. They're not dependent upon walking to work. They're not dependent upon biking to work, and they don't really see the urgency of those people who depend on those modes of transportation. So I think if we can educate the designers, and perhaps the theory is after an engineer designs a sidewalk, make it a requirement of that design effort to then use that sidewalk to see if it works, see how it feels. Does it feel safe? Does it feel comfortable? Does it get me where I want to go? Am I frightened by the traffic going by and splashing water? Then maybe I built it too close. Can I get through this intersection? Did I design an intersection that pedestrians and bikes can navigate? Or did I put up a no pedestrian crossing sign to accommodate a couple of right turn lanes to expedite traffic flow? And now as a pedestrian, I have to cross 3 streets to get across one.
We're on Old Chesterbrook Road in McLean, Virginia. It's a local collector street, lane of traffic in each direction, parking on each side. You add up the numbers, you'd figure 40 feet would be plenty of width for a street of that type. But Old Chesterbrook is 60 feet wide. Other than wasting a lot of taxpayer money building and maintaining all that extra pavement, what are the implications of that much width? First, pedestrians are going to have that much farther to get across. It's going to take them 50% longer than if it was a more reasonable width. Second, traffic's going to tend to go that much faster. They've got all that room to work with. But that's not the worst of it. Your Old Chesterbrook runs into Westmoreland Street. The intersection is skewed. Plus they have huge sweeping curb radii. The crosswalk there is 150 feet long. It could be a fourth of that and still give cars plenty of opportunity to make all their turning movements. Whoever designed this road must have loved pavement.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.